Welcome to Big Walk. I'm Garo, and this is Emerald while this is Wild. We're on a journey to explore this mysterious island and solve challenging puzzles to unlock pear-shaped prizes. We'll use these pears to open up the island and discover new tools along with strange horrors. But what does it all mean? And why are we even here? Can we work together to discover our purpose on this island before its horrors end up consuming us? This is 100% of Big Walk. My journey begins in a red room as I look down to notice my blue scrawny legs. I can also point with each ball hand, which looks like a 1-2 punch. Oh! Someone got smacky! Get over here! Get over here, smack it! Smack it! Now, what? You can grab me? Release me at once! Number grabbies, no! They have power that I'm not aware of. How are they grabbing the snootsy? Once they let go of me, I read the controls as Emerald demonstrates the art of crouching and I learn how to sit. Afterwards, I read a sign to learn I can raise objects over my head, plus the balls are actually lights. So of course we group up, then enjoy our own light show. Nappa smackies! Then I learn about the text chat and type a smiley as Emerald responds with a happy tongue face. Afterwards, new signs reveal that I can combine the raise and forward buttons to aim each arm to the side. After practicing, I punch a switch to activate a light before discovering the lost and found where items will end up when we end each session. Finally, Wild brings a cowbell, then we leave to start our big walk down the stairs and reach the great outdoors. We progress through the forest to find some kind of crane frame with a button at the top, but we can't reach it and throwing a ball doesn't do anything to it, so we instead stack on top of each other so I can jump up and hit the switch. That's it! Confetti! Where's the shiny? Then a mechanism gradually unscrews above before dropping a big red pear that Emerald catches and punts at me. So I pick up the prize and shake it a bunch as we reach an orange staircase along with the bench with the camcorder. It seems to mark interactable objects like the light and the pear, plus it makes the viewer's eyes cutely expressive. Eventually, I walk up the stairs to press the button as the contraption shoots up a flare which explodes in the sky. Now we have a skylight as we make our way over to some kind of art building where we can view ourselves in the mirror. There's also a paintbrush that I pick up and coat with blue paint to turn Emerald's head blue.
Why can we not paint ourselves? That seems dangerous.
You know what? You're right. Pink!
No.
Pink! Eventually, I catch up to Emerald and color his chest pink too before changing Wild's head back to blue, then following their request to color them similarly to their dragon characters. Oh, I'm yellow pink. If this is terrible, I don't know. Nappa pink! No! Oh, that's even worse. Just give me the brush back. Nappa! No! I get the brush back, then Wild helps paint me to the colors I want, which I eventually decide is lime, sky, and blue. Finally, I change Wild's head to burgundy and his chest to blue before inspecting both of their new colors as we happily spin and continue our journey. I notice an observation deck above, so we head all the way up to it, then press the button, but nothing seems to happen. Wild notices that it activated a red light as telescoping Emerald points out it opens a box, so I look through the telescope to see the opening box for myself. I volunteer to go check out the box, but I end up getting lost along the path. Oh no, did I have a derpy Stootsy moment? They're looking at me through the telescope right now and they're probably thinking, what a derp. He didn't even go the right way. I just remembered it was like straight ahead or on the rocks somewhere. Okay, I have to go back.
Did you get lost?
No, I just needed to rub the jelly bean of good luck. I felt a little bit nervous, so I just, you know. After rechecking the telescope and tapping the button to see exactly where the light is, I head over for my second attempt as I see that Wild got here first. Nappa, mocking the snootsy, already getting the shiny before I even get here. Nappa.
Are you getting lost again?
No, I was just taking the scenic route. There's a difference. There's more nature that way. Emerald, open the thing! Okay, so we head all the way back for a while to pick up the other pair before I notice red stairs in the distance, so we follow that direction. On the way, we discover a strange bin with a large keyhole, but we can't interact with it, so we head further down only to find another keyhole bin. After passing yet another, we find a key lodged in a slot along with 4 pear-sized receptacles. Nearby buttons open the slot, so Emerald presses one down as I insert the first pair, then he presses the second for a while to insert the other one. But we need 2 more and can't remove the key, so we head up the red stairs, but the bridge is raised because we apparently need the key. After running around in the night, we find some kind of blue building, so I enter inside as Wild closes me in. So I check the first symbol to see that it's a percentage with the bottom right circle missing. After I tell my friends, they search through the different pegs until Wild finds the right one, then slots it in. The second symbol's a spiral, so they find that too and slot it in, whilst doing the same for the lowercase e, triangle, and a triple stack of balls. Emerald then pushes the button as the screen processes our inputs before confirming that we won with a cluster of confetti. The next red pear is released as Emerald kicks it into my room. Nappa, let me... Nappa! Release me! No! Why are you trapped? Yes! I then pick up the pair as we search around to finally find some kind of green structure. Here, the pillars have switches on the back, but pressing the switch just turns it yellow before it eventually changes to red. So I decide to do left arm up, right arm up, then both arms up for the countdown as they both agree and we take our positions. I start the countdown and when it ends, we flip our switches as suddenly confetti appears and the final red pair is released. Now we head all the way back to the key and press the switches to slot in the final 2 pairs, which causes the key to loosen before ultimately being spat out. So I pick up the key, then carry it to one of the lock bins for it to twist in as the internal mechanism saws through a piece at the bottom before giving the key back. We'll need to do this 4 more times, so I carry the key to each bin for its bottom to get grinded again and again until the key is fully complete. But before we leave, Wild and Emerald head out to find a light, then make it back with one that Wild carries as we ascend the red stairs. Once I slot the key in place, the red bridge comes all the way down, allowing us to cross. On the other side is a flashlight that I carry for myself as we continue along the path while enjoying the view of the ocean. Eventually we find a side path with speakers that play relaxing music, so we all sit down in the middle to relax and enjoy the scene. No, smack it! He's never pick up! No! Not in the ocean! Stop! Look who got wet! Look who got wet! Well, I got wet too, but only the pauses. You got wet down to the neck. Like, can we even get back up? Conveniently, there's 3 seats facing the ocean, so we each take a seat and enjoy the gorgeous sunrise together. No, we need that! No! Oh my gosh, can we even get it back? Oh, okay. Oh, you're freaking out! Oh no, you're panicking! Your eyes! Are we drowning? We need to get to land. I'm gonna hold on to the flashlight. Once we jump back up the rocks, we make our way back to the red path and head far enough across to find some kind of radio. I push the button, which causes the antenna to pop out and extend upwards, making the portable radio play the music that we enjoyed from before. So I try it out and switch the channels to realize that we've only unlocked the first one with its music. After I switch back to the flashlight, we continue along the red path and up the stairs to eventually end up back on the sand. So we follow the trail while turning on the lights along the way until we reach a circular red platform. After we activate the lights, I press the button in the middle to shoot a flare up into the sky, then we realize we're on the other side of our spawn door. So I approach the switch and press it for the shutters to gradually turn, then slide all the way aside, opening a shortcut to our starter area. Wild immediately brings back a cowbell and starts ringing it as Emerald writes on a marker board before raising it to call me a pleb. Nappa pleb, you can write on that, how dare you, Nappa! Nap! Oh, smack! Oh my gosh, you can write so much. Finally, I approach the nearby microphone and press the switch, but talking doesn't seem to do anything. Then when Emerald tries it, Wild notices that the distant tower's light turns green when pressing the switch, so we reactivate the flare for more light, then explore around more. Now there are red bins that require a key, and when we head up the nearby stairs, we find a closed door along with an empty key slot. After fighting over the marker board some more, we follow the path all the way up as I turn on a light and we make it to the tower. So I press the button to open the door as we step inside to find another flashlight and camcorder. But as I climb the stairs, I fall down and get stunned, so I ask Wild to try it out to show me the adorable swirly eyes animation while Emerald slides down doing the same. Climbing all the way to the top, I find another flare launcher and press the button to shoot a flare up, but then Emerald shines a laser with a laser pointer. The laser shines very far and is super bright to see, but looking nearby, we find 5 pair slots along with another key. I try the laser for myself before using binoculars that allow me to see very far. Finally, we jump off the tower to stunt slide down before searching around to find a yellow structure with a walkie-talkie. Emerald picks it up to try talking into it, then we jump down to a similar blue structure to find the other walkie-talkie. But our hands are full, so we make the difficult decision to get rid of the laser pointer as Wild heads back to the tower to return it. Meanwhile, Emerald and I search around to find some kind of tunnel, but it's too high to jump into. So Emerald gets the idea to jump onto the rail, but it's slippery, so we both slide off. Eventually, I manage to slide along it to make my way inside as Emerald makes it too, but the tunnel just leads to the other side of where we already were. Thankfully, we managed to find a new puzzle with a hoop as Wild shines his laser at us. So we jump around with our lights and Emerald positions himself in front of the hoop to kick the light inside. But sadly, he kicks it too hard before trying again and kicking it too soft, though after enough attempts, he manages to kick it in for some meter progress. So Emerald keeps kicking it in again and again to progress the meter more and more until Emerald completes the puzzle as confetti shoots at him. We're rewarded with a red pair. But with all of our hands full, we leave a talkie behind to carry the rest of our items all the way to the tower. What are you doing? Big blue ice dragon! Fact! Nappa!
The sign rejected it.
No, it accepts. I am its master. After I hold the switch for Emerald to slot the pair, he shines the laser at where we solved the puzzle, so I leave the flashlight then jump down to head back for the talkie. Making my way there, Emerald guides me with the laser as I eventually reach the puzzle and pick up the talkie. There appears to be a sniper targeting me through the bushes. Over. I see its targeting laser. Please advise. The laser appears to be unable to detect me because pro pauses. Over.
We'll have the sniper repositioned shortly.
That will not be necessary. Over. Immediately, the laser shines towards me as I panic and try to hide behind the trees while slowly approaching the tower tree by tree. Since they're laser watching the main path, I take a detour around the left side and jump up the rocks as I'm suddenly very close. I think he saw me. No! Cheat! Why'd you look this way? I took the widest flanks to check. Never me! But then when we're back at spawn, Wild writes something on the board. What does it say? Show me? Show me! No, not small! Give it back! Wait, no, I'm not picking you up. I want the sign. Big! Small's my biggest blue ice dragon proposes ever never! Give it! Biggest blue dragon. Naba, 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 naba. We have red pears to hunt. After fixing Wild Sign again and kicking it away, our adventure finally resumes as we reclaim our tools and jump off the tower to stun slide along the ground. Watching Emerald slide a bit further, I turn to follow Wild down a path all the way over to some kind of green structure. Heading inside confirms it's a puzzle as there's a red pear and switches all around, so Emerald opens the door then walks inside as I close it behind him. Now I try pressing a switch, but a red light shows that was wrong, so I look to Emerald, who flails his left arm. We figure out that he's pointing out which switch to press, so we try to follow his direction as Wild presses the switch, but it still ends up wrong. Now Emerald points to the right, but since two of those switches are close, I double check with him exactly which one he means before pushing it to get it right. We continue getting all of the button presses right until Confetti confirms the completion of the puzzle and the pear is unlocked for Emerald to catch it before exploring below the rocks. Eventually we find some kind of yellow structure that looks like some sort of maze. Wild wants me to handle it, which I agree to since I never get lost, so after I enter the maze and follow the left path past several walls with holes in them, I eventually reach some kind of tomato. Picking it up immediately starts some kind of ticking timer as I stare at the triangle until it reaches the end. What happens if it fills up? Oh! Realizing I need to pass it through the hole, I call out to my friends, but they don't hear me, so I make my way back to them. Once I reach them, I explain that this isn't a maze and guide them to the end to show them the timed tomato. I explain that we'll have to pass it through the holes and position accordingly, so Wild and Emerald leave to find the right spots as Emerald waits across my hole. Once he confirms we're all ready, I grab the tomato and pass it to him as he leaves to pass it to Wild, who immediately solves the puzzle. After heading back to the start to see Emerald with the pear, we all make our way back towards the tower. On the way, we discover a blue ring stack and enter inside to find a yellow tool, which we realize is a backpack. Using it on my light does nothing and I can't put the light on it, but when Wild picks it up, he's able to put it on my back. Now he grabs a pear and slots it into my backpack, so we resume our journey all the way back to the red tower. Once at the top, we slot in the pears one by one, then I point out a big red doorway and suggest we check it out. So I jump off and lose my flashlight as it bounces far away, but I'm thankfully able to find and retrieve it. The red doorway turns out to be completely blocked off, so we explore around until we find a lime green structure playing jungly music, then we find the radio and activate it to unlock track number 3. Wild thinks there's a puzzle by the beach, so we head over in that direction to ultimately find some kind of train stop. But we can't seem to do much here, so we notice a yellow structure above and head there instead. It turns out to be a puzzle with some kind of timed tomato launcher, so we activate it to fire the tomato as the other two jump down after it for Emerald to punt it towards me. Quickly, I rush over to the tomato and grab it, then charge the receptacle to slot the tomato just in time. Rewarded with another pear, we notice an orange structure and head down towards it to find a boxed pear along with a set of coordinates. But since we have no idea how to get there, we explore around and notice a ramp at the top of the hill, then start heading over to climb all the way to the top. Here, there's pegged symbols corresponding to our different poses along with slots and a button plus a locked pear and 5 telescopes. Each telescope seems to point to a different distant platform, so we decide that I'll stay here while both of them head to different platforms. Noticing Wild approaching one, I look through the telescope to observe him raising his left arm up. So I head back to the signs and choose one with the left arm raised, then slot it on the left. Now I look through the second telescope to see Emerald spreading his arms out, so I head back and grab the sign with arms spread, then place it in the second slot. The third telescope shows Wild with both arms raised, so I head back to find that sign and slot it in as well. But then I realize that the first sign is wrong since the other arm is across, so I pull it out, then replace it with a sign that has that arm lowered. Now the fourth telescope shows Wild sitting with one arm raised, so I head back to find that sign and place it in slot 4. The fifth scope has Emerald in neutral pose, so I go back to grab that sign, then slot it in and press the button for us to complete the puzzle. Once the others are back, we decide to return to the tower, so I jump off to slide, but Wild ends up sliding much farther. Now we head all the way back to the tower and slot in the last 2 pairs, so the key slides deeper inside before popping right out. Once Emerald grabs it, I activate the flare launcher for light, then jump off the tower, but I slide far away from my friends as my flashlight bounces even farther. Once I find the light and pick it back up, I'm confused about where my friends are, so I head back up the path. Eventually I find them grinding the key as Emerald slots the key for the third grind. After grinding the key at the fourth slot, then heading to the fifth to grind it again, we then head upstairs with the key as Emerald slots in the key to open the door. Inside is a big open room with a 3D map of the entire island. Immediately I notice a large ball on the left as I jump down to get a closer look. Then we examine the map more closely before I look up to notice the ceiling is opening. Back to the map, as I look over it more, I realize that it reveals every single pair location. Not only that, but Emerald notices that towers we complete are marked with a flag along with all the pairs we've managed to find. Looking over the map, I'm starting to get overwhelmed by the staggering amount of information just as Wild gives me something that turns out to be a portable map. It also shows coordinates and even lets us zoom in on the different four corners. So Wild puts it in my backpack, then he suggests that we go for the coordinates pair that we found before. So to locate those coordinates, he pulls out the map as we all look through it, then Wild figures out the coordinates lead near some kind of ski lift. Looking for myself, I lay the map flat as Wild brings me a laser, then I pinpoint the exact location. But that's pretty far, so we agree to leave that one for now as I put the laser away to find a compass. It helps us find the way north, but we decide to leave it behind, then Wild laser points to that same coordinate spot on the 3D map. Then he laser points to our current map location along with where our previous puzzle was to show the path to the spot. Finally, we head all the way back outside, then make the very long trip over to the jungle music spot, then up a hill to find another donut stack building with a green backpack that Emerald drops down for me to put on his back. Then heading further along the path, we find some blue stairs leading up to a pair and some kind of hole. Emerald heads down the path towards another blue structure as Wild and I follow behind, but then I see Emerald pick something up, so we head back thinking he's gonna punt it. But instead, it's a different kind of ball which is too heavy for us to move while we carry it. I like your strained eyes with when you're holding it. It's like, so heavy. And then when you get to get it taken off, you're like relieved, like, oh, thank you. We keep transferring it back and forth to each other over and over again to gradually work our way across as the path slopes higher. Dropping the ball would make it slide far, but thankfully we flawlessly keep passing it to each other back and forth again and again, even up the rocks until we finally reach the hole and slot the ball in. After I put the pair on Emerald's backpack, we continue through the jungle and even up a canyon before noticing the ski lift overhead that isn't working. Then a bit higher up, I look behind and notice two blinking towers far behind. But there's also more on the left as we jump our way to the top and find some kind of big yellow structure. Once we jump up top, we notice a hole in the middle as Wild drops down really far, then I follow behind for the long drop myself. Now Wild found a flare pistol as he fires it up into the sky. After the flare pistol auto reloads, Emerald picks it up to shoot me. Never shooting me. That goes into the sky. Not by boom boom. Why are you trying to boom boom posy? Finally, we leave to all slide down as we make it out. We then see some kind of green structure ahead, so we make our way around and up to enter inside. The pair confirms it's another puzzle and there are 3 doors, so I open one and head inside, then close the door behind me. Now my block reveals its pattern as a triple ball stack, so I press down the intercom switch and ask if the others can hear me. After some time, we figure out that we talk to the person clockwise from us, but hear from the person counterclockwise from us. So I explain to Emerald that I have the first block, which is a triple ball stack, and tell him to relay that info to Wild. Eventually, I hear that Wild got that message as he reveals that the third block is a 6. I then grab the blocks one by one and place them down to discover the 6th one and place it in slot 3. Then I hear Wild relaying Emerald's one to me, which is like a star with lines through it. Realizing that's the asterisk, I pick it up and place it in slot 2. Suddenly I notice the first light turning on followed by the second, so I eventually push my own button as the scan confirms we won, then we meet back in the middle for our victory pair. Since our hands are full, we agree to prioritize finding a radio tower, so Emerald pulls out the map. Then we realize there's a tower nearby, so I see the green one and flash my light at it. Emerald points out that the map shows all the towers, including a blue one and a yellow one, so he puts the map on my back, then we start heading towards the green one. Emerald keeps shooting flares at it as we continue making our way over little by little until we head around the rocks to find a path. Then Emerald jump scares me with the point blank flare shot before we keep continuing up to notice the ski lift along with the tower's door. So we open the door then head all the way up the stairs to the top where there's 5 pair slots like before. Now I take the second one off Emerald's back as Wild inserts each of them one by one, then we look over the tower to notice a red structure below. Jumping down towards it, we first notice the base of the ski lift which has a key slot, making us think we need the key to turn it on. Then heading to the red structure, there's a screen with coordinates along with more coordinates overhead, so Emerald picks up the screen but the numbers change as he walks around. So I figure out that it displays his real-time coordinates and put it on Emerald's back, that way we can constantly know our coordinates as he walks around. Unfortunately, there's also a whiteboard on the back where Emerald calls me the biggest pleb ever. Biggest? Bro, but no! Nappa! Give it back! Nappa small! Big! No. What? He put on the back? Nappa! How dare you! Since I can't take it off myself, I ask for the map back, so Wild removes the board as I quickly change the small to big, then punt it far away. Now I ask Emerald to move in different directions so we can figure out which ways affect each number, then I examine the 2 coordinates again before showing which way we'll need to go. Then we head in that direction for a little bit before I double check our progress with Emerald. We're pretty close to 1883 on the bottom, but far from the top's 3259, so Emerald moves down the path, which lowers the upper number as I encourage him to keep going. But eventually I redirect him a bit towards the right as we pass a green closed door, then I tell him to go a bit more left, but as we climb up the hill, Emerald points out a blue structure. So we head all the way up towards it and enter inside to find a new piece of equipment that I put on Wild as a holster. But I can't put the light on it, though Emerald manages to slot in the flare pistol. Wild then reveals that he can't remove it or even see it. Finally, we head back out as Emerald continues his coordinates journey by jumping down a rock. Following behind, we're both stunned as we slide further and further before getting back up and continuing along the path. We then jump up some rocks to find the blue tower. So we head over to it and open the door to climb all the way to the top, then notice the big ball beyond the dam. Back to our coordinates hunt, we jump off the tower as I drop my flashlight and slide. But I'm not able to find my light again, so I return to the tower to grab the other one. Heading back, I notice some kind of red building where my friends are, so I catch up to them. You found the flashlight. Look what you're doing, sit. Flashy. You think I don't know Morse code? Clearly you're saying Draggy is Big Blue Ice Dragon Pro Pause. Well, of course. You didn't have to tell me that. I knew that. Now I push into the building, but all my items fall behind, so I turn on the light, then notice the blocks and slots. Wild reveals that I'm sadly very quiet, but then I hear Emerald's voice, so I tell Wild to relay Emerald's info to me. So Wild asks for the symbols before coming back and explaining that the first is like an M with a circle on the sides and that there's a curve underneath. So I head over to the symbols to pick them up and place them, realizing that they genuinely are more complex. Unfortunately, none of the symbols look right to me, so I go back to the door to ask for another description. Wild repeats what was said before also adding that the shapes are all connected, then I overhear Emerald explaining that it's also tilted 30 degrees clockwise. But still, I'm struggling to figure out the right shape, though thankfully Emerald overhears my struggle, so I ask him for clarification on the side circles. Emerald explains that it's kind of like headphones with the parts on the sides, then I hear Wild entering my room as he sees the shapes and realizes that they're more complicated. After examining the blocks more carefully, I think I figured out the headphones one and pick it up to slot it in. Once I let Emerald know and ask for the second symbol, he explains that it's like the letter B with an extra bit at the top, so I immediately grab the far right one and slot it in. The third one is apparently like a flower with something at the bottom, so I immediately recognize that one too and slot it in. He says the fourth one is like a hand with 3 fingers, so I pick that up and insert it. Then he reveals the last one is a french fry on its own with an extra bit. Picking that up, I slot it in, then press the button, which confirms we got it all right. So Wild and I leave the room, then I put the holster back onto him along with the flare shot. Then I put Emerald's backpack back on as Wild attaches mine and puts back the map while I put the coordinate tracker back on Emerald. We then head back over to the blue tower and reach the top to slot the pair inside. Now we jump off once more before searching for those coordinates again, then we jump down to find a red staircase which leads up to a train station with the key slot. While resuming our hunt for the coordinates, we notice a new colorful structure on our right and check it out to find another bar door along with a strange blob head. What is this? It's like a mellow slimy. The door oddly has a mold for that same head, and I turn around to see that Emerald picked up the head. He can't slot it in, so he kicks it above, then he picks it up and looks at me as suddenly my vision blurs. What the? What'd you do to me? What? What is happening? Why is my screen so blurry? I can't see anything. Wait, did you put it on my head? Once they take it off, we put it on Wild as I guide him to the door with my voice until he enters inside. Then I tell him to wait as Emerald positions on one side while I head all the way to the other. Once I'm there, I carefully guide Wild, telling him to slowly walk forward, then to angle himself left. Afterwards, I encourage him forward more and more while helping him adjust his angle until he makes it fully up the ramp. Then I tell him to angle way more to the left before moving up and angling left more until he moves to the other side of the ramp. Now I tell him to turn to the right little by little until his angle is good enough for him to inch down the ramp and reach the blue. Then I make the mistake of thinking it's safe here and telling him accordingly, but when he walks all the way forward, he slips into a crack. Oh, there's a side hole! So now we put the head on Emerald as I guide him to the door before taking my position back on the side. After guiding Emerald the same way, he makes it up the ramp then over to the other side before walking all the way to the blue. Now I'm extra careful to ensure he's facing forward before telling him to proceed. As he reaches the bar, then I tell him to crouch walk underneath. Afterwards, I tell him to jump over the next bar, which he does before I tell him to crouch walk under the last one, and he makes it past them all. But now a wall blocks my vision, so I tell Wild to take over as he guides Emerald over to the platforms to jump up each of them one by one. Now I can see Emerald's path, so I tell him to jump up onto the red as he manages to reach the top. Worried about the gap, I tell him to carefully inch his way forward, then stop him when he's almost halfway. All right, try. Oh my gosh, no, it's so close. Wait, oh, I think the helmet is heavy. He can't jump that far. Wait, I forgot to tell him to sprint. Once we regroup, I volunteer to give it a try as Emerald puts the head onto me. Then after I reach where Emerald fell, he explains that this is the jump, so he directs me to inch my way forward before guiding me to sprint ahead and immediately jump. Thankfully, I make it as he now straightens my path before guiding me along the yellow until I reach a button. Wild says it's on my right, so I manage to find and press it, rewarding us with the success sound. So I walk off the edge to lose the helmet as my friends jump down too. Then we head back to collect our equipment before making it back to the blue tower to slot in the pair. 2 of these are correct, 1 is wrong! Naba, 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 naba! Big, but no. Number water coma ice dragon! Finally, we head back to the beach to restart our coordinates hunt. After I point out that someone will have to be here for the box opening, then poke fun at my speed shadow, we follow the long path up the rocks. As we get closer to the coordinates, Wild volunteers to go back and wait for the pair, so Emerald unholsters his flare so he can pick it up. While Wild heads back, I guide Emerald closer to the coordinates little by little while adjusting his angle here and there to try and line up his path. But we suddenly hear some music and follow our ears to find the light blue chime music. So Emerald turns on the radio to activate channel 6, and I experiment with his direction to reorient him until we're on the right path again. Eventually we get really close, so I fine-tune Emerald's movement some more as we pass a rock, then Emerald points out the button. So I press and hold it, then Wild shoots his flare up. On our way back to Wild, he keeps shooting up more flares while Emerald shines his laser that way until we think we're close. But then Wild shoots a flare from behind us as we head the other way before he shoots a flare at us. So we head on up to Wild to find him somehow carrying the pair. He says he juggled the 2 items up here as we make it to the blue tower and slot in the 3rd pair. We start exploring again until we find some kind of stack of yellow blocks. Since they're too high for us to jump up, we raise each other up until I make it to the top. Wait, is that a megaphone? Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, no.
Yay! I then ask for Wild to try it as he runs away with it to test it.
Does the kobold hear me?
Wait, what did he say? Did you call me a kobold? What did you say? Give me that! Never kobold, I'm not kobold, I'll tell you there's nothing kobold about me! So how are your ears feeling?
He screamed so loud it cut out. Just everything cut out.
Yep.
Finally, we explore around more until we eventually discover a glass-walled room. But then we realize that it's another helmet puzzle, so Wild volunteers to wear it as I take over the megaphone. After guiding him to the door so that he enters inside, I head up the stairs and realize that symbols will be involved. So I explain to Wild that I'll have to pick up the symbols as I confirm whether or not they're right, then I'll have to guide him to the proper slots. The first one we need is a lowercase e. I tell him to jump onto the green, then to look to his right and grab and drop things so we can see the symbols. Once they're on the ground, Emerald points to the E we need as I tell Wild to turn around and pick it up, but he picks up a different one that we'll need later. Once I tell him that, he throws it forward, so I tell him to jump over the blocks and shift more to the right until he picks up the E. For the next step, I explain that he'll have to walk up an incline, so Emerald guides him with the pointer while I give him directions with my voice until he ultimately makes it up. Then we guide him to his right and spend some time lining him up until he's able to find the hole and slot it. Now I tell him to go back down as he happens to approach the next sign, so I redirect his movements a little until he's able to find and pick it up. But then Emerald points out that we should probably do the swirl first, so I tell Wild to drop that block and that we'll have to go back for the swirl. As I'm trying to find it, suddenly Wild accidentally kicks it over as I excitedly guide him to his right and down to pick that block up. After we direct him all the way up to the purple level, we fine-tune his aiming towards the slot as he manages to insert the block. Then we carefully guide him down to the blue layer before directing him to pick up the triple ball block. Now we guide him up to the red layer before directing him up to the purple layer again and guiding him all the way around the walls until he can finally slot in the last block. Finally, we head downstairs and Emerald pushes the button, which confirms we won the puzzle. So now I guide Wild to the entrance by talking continuously until he's able to escape. Since our hands are full, Emerald drops the laser pointer and picks up the megaphone as Wild carries the pair. Eventually, we come across some kind of red stairs that lead to a counter which we can increase and decrease. There's also a telescope that lets us see the building on the other side. So the others suggest that we use the megaphone for this as I drop all the way down. While making my way across, I admire the beauty of the ocean, then tell my friends it's a great view before I make it all the way to the red stairs. Once I reach the top, I press the button to open the door and enter inside. Here, there's some kind of screen grid on the wall, and when I head up the stairs, I see blocks and a board along with a sealed pair and a counter. So I head back to close the door, but nothing seemed to change, though after I turned on the lights, I noticed the projector switch now works. But this just makes a head appear in one of the 12 screens back to back while it goes on and on. So after I megaphone shout that I need more time, I put all the blocks down to see that I have 3 asterisks, 3 triangles, and 3 lines. Confused, I also notice that they're not enough to fill the board, then I walk up the ramp to suddenly notice the counter increasing as the number climbs to 26, which ends up wrong. So I head back and open the door, then leave outside before megaphone shouting at them that this puzzle is kind of complicated and that I need them to come over here. As their glowy eyes approach in the darkness, Emerald explains that he tried 25, which was super close to 26, almost winning the puzzle with a guess. Once we make our way inside, I guide them upstairs to show the board along with the duplicate blocks. Then I point out the counter before jumping down and pushing the button to show them the screens displaying the heads. But I'm still confused on what to do until I start to wonder if we need to count the heads. Wild confirms that's probably it, then thinks I'll have to relay the number to them through the blocks on the board. So I head down to close the door, then make my way back up to push the button, which ends up raising the board up and out of the room. So I decide to come up with a Roman numeral system from simplest shape to most complicated. So the lines end up as 1s, the triangles end up as 5s, and the asterisks end up as 10s. After Wild demonstrates that 14 is star-line triangle, we decide that Emerald and Wild will go back as they leave the room, then I close the door. Now I press the projector button and watch the screen carefully to count the heads up to 16. Then I walk up to the board to slot in asterisk, triangle, and line before pushing the button to raise the code all the way up and out of the room. Afterwards, I walk up to the counter and wait until it eventually starts ticking up all the way over to the number 16 as the screen says we were right. Claiming our victory pair, I jump down with it, then open the door before megaphoning to the others that we won. So I pick up the pair, then punt it all the way over to them before going back for my megaphone, then heading over to meet up with my friends. I tell them we can leave the flashlight behind, but when I don't see the other pair, they reveal that Wild already took it to the tower. So I give him the megaphone, then take the light for myself. Eventually, we reach some kind of green barred structure that has screens like the previous puzzle along with a counter. Since the puzzle might take some time, we instead decide to slot in the pairs first, so we head up the hill, then find another puzzle with a cylinder and lots of switches. But we pass this one too, then head all the way up to the hill and climb to the top of the green tower to slot in the last two pairs, rewarding us with the key. So Emerald carries the key all the way down to the first station to grind it down before moving it to the next station for more grinding and eventually slotting it in to activate the ski lift. Then we make our way all the way down to take on the button puzzle. So I press the pair button, which enables the other switches, then we rush to press them as fast as possible, but suddenly I activate a red one. It stops all of our progress, so we'll have to remember that that's a red one as we reset the puzzle. This time I press the switches while carefully avoiding the red one, but somehow I find another red one. Resetting the puzzle again, I activate the switches around both of those bad ones, then it shuts down again as Wild gets a red one. Finally, on the next attempt, Wild and Emerald managed to press so many switches so quickly that they filled the entire central cylinder just before I managed to ruin it. But thankfully, we still won as the pair gets unscrewed and we decide to go down the hill to the next puzzle. There are 10 screens total and they're color-coded, so then we figure out the right positions to be able to see all 10 screens. So from my position, I explain that I can see cyan, dark brown, and pink. Emerald says he'll handle maroon, light brown, and orange as Wild handles the rest. After I start the puzzle, I count 8 heads among my screens before it powers down. Wild got 7 and Emerald got 8 like me, so we added up to 23, then input it into the device, but apparently it was actually 24. Wild explains that he has to jump up and down to see all of his screens, but insists it's fine, so I activate the screens again. This time I count 10 before it powers down as Emerald got 8 and Wild got 11, so I add them up to get 29, then input the number as we get it right. After we collect the pair, we then follow Emerald's numbers all the way over to the top of the green tower. Enjoying the view, we discuss about where we're gonna go next and decide to go to the blue tower first. So we jump down from the tower, then head over to the lift and interact with it to sit. But there's only room for me and Emerald, so Wild has to wait for the next lift. Shaky, shaky. One of these days, one of those is gonna hatch when you shake it so much. We're flying, Dragon Squad. You can't call me a kobold, I'm in the skies just like you two. As we approach the next stop, I ask Emerald what's at the top of the mountain, then he recognizes it as the highest point, which I reveal we can go to for an achievement. So we decide to go there soon as I notice 2 pairs in the blue tower, then we hop off at the next stop. But Wild's not behind us, so I call out to him, but he's nowhere to be found. Wild, you went poof! Why you go poof? So I suspect it went to the blue tower as Emerald and I head that way. But as we jump down, my megaphone slides far away as I completely lose it. After hearing Wild's flare from the mountaintop that we came from, I have to set aside the megaphone for now, then head over towards the blue tower. Catching up to Emerald, I explain that I lost the megaphone and that we'll need to use the scanner to find it. So we climb to the top of the tower and I look through the binoculars, but I don't see him. Then Emerald activates our flare before I help him slot in the pair as we wait to watch for Wild. But suddenly he sneaks up behind us and laughs at my surprise as I explain I'd lost the megaphone, then he slots the pair. So I jump down to grab the scanner, then make my way back to where I fell, but the scanner's not picking up anything. Wait, I'm picking up something over here. As I approach it more and more, I discover my lost megaphone. Shocked at how far away it rolled, I happily talk into it, then Emerald suggests we challenge the puzzle ahead. Entering the puzzle, I realize that it involves symbols, so I place all of them down before telling my friends to follow me so they can see what I see. I explained that they can only use the red light to communicate, but then they explained that they can see through that screen. So I'll just have to try out these blocks one by one, and if they blink twice, then I've got the right block. So they leave to start the puzzle as I grab the line block and head over to the screen with my back turned, then raise the block while I wait for their signal. But I don't get a response, so I throw down the block as suddenly they blink the red like crazy. So I assume this means I was wrong, then I bring the triangle block instead. But since I don't hear a flicker till after I drop it, I put that away and come back with the asterisk. Since I don't hear anything, I walk away with it, but then suddenly I hear 2 blinks, which confuses me, though I still switch to the 6 block. Once they double blink that, I head back to slot it in place, then nod back at the screen. Now I switch from several tiles back to back as the reach rejected with the blink.
You're not even waiting for the line, you're not showing it. Why are you showing it this way towards the chair?
Wait, what? Oh, I didn't realize I turned it around. Oh, sorry. I thought I was showing them the back of the board every time. Oh my gosh. Feeling very derpy, I explain that I understand now as he heads out and closes the door behind me. So this time I make sure to face the tiles towards the screen, then when I see the red flash, I set the block down and switch to the next one. Switching from tile to tile, they keep getting rejected until I reach the very last one, which ends up being right. Slotting that one in, I show them the blocks one by one again until it somehow ends up being the second to last one, which I slot in as well. Going through the blocks yet again, they keep getting rejected as I reach the second to last one again. You've got to be kidding me, bro. Why is it the last one? There's one more, okay. Thank God, okay. Not the last one, second to last. How unlucky could I get, bro? I then try the last block that I had left to see if that one's correct without going through all of them again, and I turn out to be right. After slotting that in, the next block ends up being the immediate correct one as well, so I slot it in as they push the button with it being correct. Yes! We get the shiny, we get the shiny, we get the, well, it's not very shiny, but we get the prize. As the pair unscrews, we collect it, then leave the building and head all the way back to the blue tower. Here, I explained to Wild that there's an achievement for getting to the mountaintop as Emerald slots in the last pair. Wild apparently was up there and doesn't have the achievement, but he didn't go all the way to the antenna, so maybe the achievement's there. Meanwhile, Emerald keeps grinding the key from station to station, so we drop down to the next, but Wild loses his light. So he rushes down to grab it while Emerald grinds for the key, then he finishes it up with the last grinder before we all head over to the train station. Walking up the red stairs, we enter inside as Emerald slots the key, then the train turns on and starts coming this way. But it heads underneath, so I drop down inside of it as my friends ultimately jump down too. Now we pass through a tunnel as I realize that I can sit down and Wild shines his light. Heading to the front, I press the button to honk the horn, then Emerald presses the bell button as I turn on the lights and try out the lever to test the brakes. This thing's kind of slow. Now bonking me with the ball. We have a terrorist on board, I repeat, we have a terrorist on board throwing glowing balls at people and trying to kick them at people too. How dare you? But since we need to reach the highest point, we head to the back and find a radio contact and tower train path before I jump off too soon. Slow the train! No, boys, he's lost! Dragon overboard! You are trying to run over Snootsy. Save me! No. Ah! I'm invincible! Once I make it back on, Emerald suggests we get off here, then make our way back to Green Tower. Dropping the megaphone for Wild, I take the flashlight as Wild kicks the ball at me, then Emerald takes the lift. So Wild takes the next one as I almost miss it, but thankfully make it on. Now I see you, Mr. Wavy Arms. Oh, you can't hear me, probably. Tell him I said wavy arms.
Jacob Navigation leading on. He also says he's a plan. He admits it.
Now the plan! Bro, Snoots, you're lucky I can't do anything. I'm gonna fall off. Oh, you can shift from side to side in the seat. I was trying to translate your arm motions as you attempted to communicate, but I did not quite understand. Obviously, you were saying I'm pro Snootsy Dragon, Big Blue Eyes Dragon.
Nope.
Nope. Now we head all the way up the path and rocks as I follow behind Emerald until we reach Wild's flare launcher. Then a bit higher up, Emerald confirms we got the achievement as we enjoy the view from the highest point. Here, we can see the yellow tower we need along with some kind of radio light beyond the green tower. So looking around, we decide to do the yellow tower next since it's near the red one, so hopefully we can also open shortcut doors. Heading down from the red tower, we quickly find a shortcut door as Emerald presses the button to make the door open wide as the first shortcut is unlocked. So we resume our journey, exploring around the rocks until we manage to reach the ski lift as Wild and Emerald hop on. Then Wild shoots a flare at me as I hop onto the next lift and ride behind. At the following stop, Emerald joins onto my ride while Wild shoots a flare ahead. Then we discover some kind of big black monolith and decide to check it out later as we notice a possible storage station on the left. Napa shooting a flare at me. I can't see, it's all the smoke in my face. Once at the top of the yellow tower, I point out the storage station, then Emerald points out the shortcut door, so we jump down to explore. After I poke fun at Wild possibly losing his flare, he turns to me and shoots. On our way, we find a sealed yellow gate that needs a key, which makes us wonder if this will open them all. Then Emerald guides us to the front of the monolith where all the lights are lit except for yellow's. Then we make our way over to the storage station to find another holster, which I grab to put on Emerald. Noticing a big pit in the ground, we head over to check it out, then confirm that we're above the map room. Now Emerald guides us to the shortcut door, so I approach it and press the button, unlocking a faster path from spawn. Then Emerald asks about the puzzle ahead, so we all enter inside. Suddenly we notice even more pair slots and approach closer to see that there's way more. Now I suspect that this is the 100% room, as we notice the monolith must be completed first, so we head back outside. Emerald wants to explore the path, so we follow behind to ultimately find another storage station with a backpack. Grabbing it, Emerald approaches Wild to place it on his back, then we explore around to find and enter a building that has several microphones inside. There's also a chair in the middle with a headset, so I take a seat and can still hear my friends, but once I turn it on, their voices get more muffled. But I can hear Emerald better since he's talking through a microphone, so I suggest Wild to go do the same. After some time testing different things and not getting anywhere, we decide on getting a whiteboard to hopefully help us figure this out. So Emerald heads out to go get one as Wild and I keep testing. Wild then suggests I listen for the mic that switches directions as I sit down in the chair. But as he talks in each microphone back to back, I suspect that the fourth one is the anomaly, but that sadly ends up wrong. Then when Wild talks through them all again, it sounds like none of them end up on my right, with the very last one ending up behind me. Confused, I tell him to choose that one, which ends up being correct, so I tell him to talk into them again. As he goes through all 6 of them back to back, I notice that the 5th one sounds like it's behind me, so I tell him to choose that one, which ends up being correct. Now I tell Wild that we were overcomplicating this as we choose the correct one 3 more times, winning us the puzzle. I'm not smallest plebeious dragon ever! I solved it! Who's smallest plebeious dragon? Who has the pair? Who has the pair? Nub! Finally, we head out and explore the path to discover some kind of purple structure. So we follow the walkway up to notice a hole that leads down to a yellow flare. Emerald says he'll jump down the hole while we head to the lower structure as we proceed forward and drop down. Immediately, Emerald shoots the flare up, which also turns out to be yellow, as the next spot turns out to have new music that we enjoy together. But after Emerald shoots towards us to flood our music zone with smoke, then fires at me again, he decides to keep this yellow flare over the red one. After pushing the button to unlock this music while Emerald waves his arms, we explore around, then approach a red structure with wooden stairs as Emerald turns on the lights. There's a bunch of speakers around playing short sound clips along with an intercom switch for communicating, so I enter inside as Emerald closes the door. Looking around, I see that each booth has its own active speaker, so I explain to Emerald that I'll have to relay the sounds to them. The first one is a constant high-pitched hum, so I try to imitate it myself before returning to the others to relay them the sound. Okay, how do I describe this? This is our first time trying to describe sound. Okay, so the first one is like, the duo checks the speakers one by one until they find the right one, then Wild goes to slot it in. The second speaker plays a really low-pitched beat sequence, so I do my best to relay it to my friends. Okay, so this one is really low-pitched. It's like boom, bum, 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 ba, ba, boom, ba, ba, boom, ba, ba. Wild finds it pretty fast and slots it in as the third speaker plays a speedy crescendo of high-pitched notes that I struggle to imitate, but after enough practice, I managed to get close enough to relay it to my friends. It's higher pitched than what I'm gonna do, but it's like, no, hold on. It's like, but higher pitch, but they seem to have trouble identifying the right one for a bit until Emerald seems to have found it. The fourth one ends up being just like the third one, but the notes go down instead of up as I'm not able to imitate them. So I head back to my friends, but before I can explain, Emerald says they didn't get the third one yet. He explains that 2 are similar since one goes down while the other goes up, then I clarify that the down one is number 4 while the up one is number 3. Once they understand, I check the 5th, which is a series of 4 doubled notes, then I practice the song for a bit before going back to relay it to my friends. Okay, the last one is bum 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 bum. I hate you very very much bum 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 bum. After Wild and Emerald spend time listening to different speakers, Wild ultimately grabs one to go slot in, then Emerald changes it last second as Wild pushes the button and we win the puzzle. Then Emerald and I get in the ski lift while Wild follows on foot. Once Emerald and I reach the tower, we climb to the top then slot in a pair before shooting up a flare. But Wild is nowhere to be found, so Emerald starts shining a laser, then we notice some kind of yellow blocks in the distance.
I was stuck at that door for so long.
What door?
The sign doesn't fit through the door.
Oh.
No, mine.
Naba! If I mess it up, I have to open it like 5 times. Oh my gosh!
I'm not moving.
But your body automatically moves and that shifts the interact spot. Okay, I got it. So now Emerald and I slot the pair as we plan to go to the next 2 storage structures in the distance. Wait, I recognize that distant one. I think that's one we've already been to, isn't it?
Oh, no.
That's okay, it's okay, we're gonna go down anyway. We then check out the dam as a creepy deep hum begins to grow and the audio begins to muffle. Emerald's distorted voice causes me to turn as I notice our colors are drained away, then we can't even hear each other. So we keep moving forward to find a unique keyhole along with the creepy red entity behind the glass. With nothing left to do, I motion for us to go back as we head up the stairs and our colors gradually return, then we're able to talk again. Now we're seriously spooked, so we leave the dam to find the first storage structure rewarding us with a red holster that goes on me. Now we're all maxed on storage, so we continue until we find the yellow music structure and press the button to claim channel 4. Then nearby is some kind of red floor pit structure, so we head down the stairs, then open the door to explore the puzzle. The sign doesn't let you in.
Can't get it in.
It can't fit, is this? Oh, dang it, you got in. Never flare boom, I need to see. While we wait for the smoke to clear, Emerald comes in saying that a second person needs to be on the other side. So we head on over to notice a bunch of screens on the wall along with the middle playroom filled with cushions of different shapes and sizes. Also, the window is one way and the room has teapots, but eventually we decide to just try the puzzle as Wild heads over. But when Emerald's in the middle room, I can't press the button, so he has to come to my side for me to press the button and close the door. Now Wild's door opens up and we notice the screens behind us have symbols on them, so Emerald helps me get my megaphone, so I try and shout to Wild. But he doesn't seem to hear me, so we decide to restart the puzzle. Heading over to Wild, I tell him to come to our room as I explain that we have to close our door in order to open his. Since we'll have to communicate through the room, Wild comes up with using the teapots. So once we confirm that his pegs are in the same spots as our screens, Wild divides the pegs into clusters of 5, 4, and 3. Then Wild points out that there are different groups of cushions clustered in 5s, 4s, and 3s, so Wild suggests we use them. Then when I ask how we'll handle pegs sharing the same axis, he suggests we go left to right, top to bottom. Once we're all on the same page, Wild goes back to his room, then we close the door. Now I examine our screens before heading to the teapots to move one over to the first stack. But for the 4 cluster, I'm not sure how to indicate position 2 here since it's left to right and top to bottom at the same time, so I just place the kettle at the top. When I've placed all the teapots, we leave the room and push the button. All right, let's see how it goes. Just has his arms out. Oh, he's raising the sign, Napa. He checks the different clusters one by one before re-entering his room to input the sequences until he eventually pushes the button, which sadly ends up wrong. So once we meet up, we clear up what we were getting wrong before heading back to our rooms where I notice the sign calling me a slow, small kobold, so I correct it to big blue ice dragon, then Wild catches me. Thankfully, we back out as he heads to his room, then we start the puzzle. With 1, 2, 5 marked on the first cluster, I enter the room to place the teapots on positions 1, 2, 5. The 4 cluster just has the last one, so I place the kettle on the bottom. The final cluster is 1 and 3, which is already correct, so we leave the room and shut the door. Wild enters the room, then observes where I place the kettles while going in and out of the room over and over again until he inputs the sequence and the puzzle is solved. Now I put Wild's equipment back on him, but then he remembers the sign. Fine, I'll put it on your back. It's fine as it is. Nava, Nava, Nava.
Okay.
Yes. Wild tries to tell Emerald to change the sign, but I quickly talk over him, then we explore down to find some kind of big green house structure. Approaching the front, I flip the switch to open the doors, then enter inside to notice this room having screens. Checking the other room, I see it's filled with pegs and pose signs. So I explain that one will have to see the different poses and communicate them with their gestures, then I'll imitate those gestures to relay them to the other who will put in the pegs. With Wild on screen duty and Emerald on sign duty, I close the door to start the puzzle. Wild checks behind his board, then approaches me before just sitting on the ground. So I head over to Emerald's window to see him watching as I sit down in front of him as well. Once he understands and motions me to leave, I get up and return to Wild, who shows me an arms raised sitting pose. After I relay this to Emerald, he goes behind his board, then I return to Wild. The next pose is arms raised standing, so I show it to Emerald, and Wild shows me a right arm across pose. After I copy it for Emerald, Wild shows me a plain neutral pose, so I show that to Emerald as well, who slots it in and pushes the button, winning us the puzzle. After claiming our victory pair, we head over to another storage structure which gives an extra backpack that we don't have room for. So we head all the way back to the yellow tower. Trying to fit in with the sign. Then we head to the top and slot in both pairs back to back. Up here, Emerald suggests we check out a stage puzzle, so we jump down in that direction. Now put on my lights. Give me the shiny back. No! Oh, I'm by mashing so much. No, I'm not kicking my light away, I need that! Thankfully, my light lands right in the puzzle where there are lawn chairs and a stage with 2 levels. So we check the lower room to find lots of buttons along with the upper room which has the signal diamonds. There are 7 diamonds but only 4 chairs, so the person here will somehow have to communicate the specific diamond to the viewer outside, then he'll have to relay it to the person in the lower room. As I start suggesting a number system for the diamonds, Wild suggests a color system, but I point out that the buttons on the lower floor don't have different colors. Then Emerald suggests that we use positions on the stage to correspond with the positions of these diamonds and shows me what he means outside, so we end up going with his system. So I stay outside as Wild enters the lower room and Emerald takes the upper one. With the puzzle started, Emerald points for me to stand bottom right, but I mistake it for top right as Emerald corrects me to lower, then Wild selects it as correct. Next, Emerald points to top middle, so I jump up to that spot, but it ends up being wrong. This time Emerald points to top left, so I head there and Wild inputs it, which ends up correct. Then Emerald points to top right, which ends up being correct, and top left, which ends up being correct before doing far left, mid left, far right, mid right, and top right, winning us the puzzle. Claiming our victory pair, we head all the way back to Yellow Tower and watch Wild get stuck in the doorway again before reaching the top to slot the pair. Once the key is released, Emerald grabs it as we head down the stairs, but Wild keeps swiping my light. Eventually I get it back as Emerald grinds the key, then we move over to the next grinder. Once we finish here and move on to the next, Wild ends up losing his light as it rolls far away. Eventually we reach the last grinder and finish off the key before approaching the big yellow gate. Slotting in the key opens up the path ahead, so we enter inside to find a marker pointing to the tower that we came from. Emerald thinks this is a shortcut as we eventually find marked paths to both the blue and red towers. He also hears some music as we investigate the higher path, which ultimately leads to some kind of dance club. Immediately, DJ Emerald takes the floor to start messing with the lights as I start flipping random switches myself. Enjoying the music, I head over to the radio and push the button so we unlock it for ourselves. Then we head outside and explore the tunnel to learn that it can lead to any tower that we want. So we follow the blue one all the way to the end for it to release us right in front of the blue tower. Oh, it's so cute. Sleepy sleep. And you too? They both go sleepy sleepish bedtime, nighty night. Tuck away the adventures for bedtime. That's cute. Waking up the next day, we grab a yellow walkie-talkie for my holster, then a blue talkie for Wild's before heading all the way back to the monolith. With the door now open, we head inside and climb up the long staircase to find 3 buttons. So we each press and hold one of them as suddenly Emerald gets dazed. Emerald, why are you so dizzy? What happened to you? Are my eyes doing that too?
I'm passing out. No.
We can't help him. What did the bad button do? So we leave Emerald behind and go up top for 6 more pair slots along with a strange black key. Then we head back down for Emerald to suddenly snap out of it. Apparently he had spooky visions showing the monolith, the big ball, and even Wild as Emerald went into his eye. Then back to the big ball and even me off to the side with some place there before Emerald saw a big red eye above and went into it. So we head out to look for puzzles and eventually find some orange ringed structure. Approaching the middle, we find a wall with several slots along with the buttons, so we start looking around. Emerald finds some kind of peg, and I see more on the ground, so we start picking them up, then dumping them at the middle. Wild starts slotting them in the holes as we all bring more and more, even walking along the upper wall to find blue ones. Eventually, after working together to find every single peg in the area, we slot them in and push the button, completing the puzzle. So we head back to drop off the pair, then we use Emerald's tracker to guide him to the coordinates from before until we find a box. Wild agrees to stay at the switch as I place down his walkie-talkie, then I guide Emerald to the second coordinates, which leads to the other switch. So I let Wild know we're ready, then start the countdown before we each flip our switches, winning the puzzle. Now we explore near the beach, then find some kind of red building before entering inside. There's an ominous countdown on the wall, so we each press and hold a button as the door suddenly closes and we're timed for 5 minutes. It's gonna go boom boom! We have to do something! But there's like nothing here. Oh wait, is it literally just break time? I think we just sit and talk. Oh. So, gentlemen, how has your day been? Hope you're quite comfortable. Look at you lounging on the chair, not even like sitting proper, like you've got like one of your legs out. These are some fancy cushions, you putting your shoes on there. Those were walking outside in the mud. Disgusting. And you were even worse. You're putting both of your shoes on the sofa cushion. You're smearing mud everywhere. Mine are on the floor because fancy pausies. Should I actually sit over there? Am I gonna give you a therapy session? Go on, take a seat. So, Emerald, it has come to my attention that you have been flailing your arms quite a lot recently. I've heard this is a possible condition. Arm flail syndrome. Have you noticed any of these other possible symptoms such as dehydration, falling from great distances, extreme visions and nightmares, delusions of terror and horror, some kinds of imaginations of eldritch abominations? Do any of these seem like they're useful or relevant to what you have experienced? Okay, I see you nodding. Very well. Well, then may I consider our prescription Nightmare Away? You take 1 dose of Nightmare Away. Yeah, yes, you want the Nightmare Away. No, you do not throw the pear at me. This is my establishment. You were under my jurisdiction for 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Nappa throwing the pear at me. You need treatment. You're going cuckoo. You're going crazy. You practically have a bird-shaped head and nose. Yes, you're going crazy. Nappa, flare! We're trapped in this room and you're gonna fill it with smoke! Nappa! Wild panics, mashing the buttons as he hopes to escape, then suddenly the countdown ominously finishes its final seconds as the puzzle is completed. So we return to the monolith to slot in the pairs, then on the way to the next puzzle, Wild tricks me.
This is the wrong way.
Nappa, you tricked me! I trusted you.
Let's go faster. Go faster.
Nappa, I'm trying. I made it.
Oh.
What do you mean, oh, you don't want me to make it? Oh no. Oh, he went the other way as well. Nappa, how dare you sabotage?
No, he went the right way, but he saw us going the wrong way and he followed.
Oh my goodness. We're just all following each other. No, he fell asleep. Sleepy, sleepy bluebird. It's not bedtime. Wait, you're going too far. Emerald, you're sleeping through the entire journey! We then eventually find some kind of tall puzzle with the front door closed, so we stack on top of each other to climb onto the roof, then open the door from behind. Now we stack some more to work our way up a tall series of stairs until we reach the top, then jump down the other side. After we jump across the gap, I wait by a switch while my friends stack for the other, then we press at the same time to open the door. Here, there's a timed tomato holder, so my friends jump down then climb up the stairs to the top. Now I kick the tomato at them so they can grab it, then slot it in, solving the puzzle. Exploring close to the beach, Emerald finds a green slingshot-shaped puzzle that has a flare launcher and a switch. So Wild stays behind at the switch while Emerald and I head to the flare location to ultimately find the open container and claim the pair. Now we regroup and find a nearby switch, so Emerald plans to signal with the flare, then we each head to one of the switches. Once Emerald shoots the flare and it detonates, we flip our switches and complete the puzzle. Finally, we head back to the monolith and slot in all 3 pairs so the creepy black key comes out. Then we make our way over to the dam as the colors disappear from our bodies again, then I slot in the key. Suddenly, the glass gate opens, revealing the creepy red entity as we enter the chamber to find buttons. Each of us stands near one of them, then presses and holds his button as the bell begins to vibrate and squirm. Eventually, it shrivels up as the red glow slowly fades away, then the entity powers down. Our colors are back as the back doors open and we see the massive ball in the distance. I was like immersed. I was soaking in the scene, like going down dramatically, and then just see Wild just drop down. So we make our way all the way over and start to hear that creepy hum as our colors get drained away once more. Approaching the entrance, we notice an item denier ahead and hesitate to enter before we each pass through and leave all our equipment behind one by one. Now I don't know who's who, and there's a red light really high up, so I enter a doorway to find a puzzle as the others enter their own rooms. Once I've laid out all the tiles, I show them to Wild as he shakes his head again and again until I grab the E and he nods at me. After the percent sign ends up right and the swirly swirl does as well, I switch over to Emerald who points out which other ones are correct. Once they're all slotted, I push the button and we win the puzzle, opening a path in the back wall. Heading up the stairs, we find 3 buttons and each press our own, raising the wall to reveal the next floor. This puzzle has several switches, so Wild and Emerald each enter their own rooms, then close the doors. Wild seems confused in his room while Emerald motions to a switch, so I press it, which wins us progress. Then Emerald points to another switch, which I press for even more progress. After pressing another of Emerald's switches, Wild gets one of his own and directs me to the side, so we're nearly done. Then he points me to the last one, so I back up to press it, winning us the puzzle. Another back wall opens, so we head inside and up the stairs, then press and hold our buttons to open the next floor. This puzzle has a timed tomato, so Wild starts on that side, then kicks the tomato over, then Emerald shifts aside and kicks it back. Now Wild kicks it to me, so I punt it to the room next to him, but he's not able to get there. So Wild positions in that further room as I head over to his side to start the next tomato. Now I punt it across to Emerald as we shift over, then he punts it back to me. Shifting again, I punt it back to Emerald, but now the door blocks me, so Emerald punts it across to Wild. After they send it back and forth a couple times, they ultimately slot in the tomato, winning us the puzzle. Where are we? I think it's this way. I wonder if they can tell this is me though. Oh, never mind. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't hear you. You can't make fun of me. You can't make, that's right. Stunzy. If they had any doubt who's who, now they definitely know this one's me. So we head up the new stairs and press the buttons to unlock the higher floor and find the next puzzle. This one has some kind of finish line, so I motion at the others to start on the line and direct them forward as we each rush towards our switches. Then we reach the end and flip our switches to ultimately win the puzzle. One triple button press later and we're at the next puzzle with 3 doors and hallways. The left one has switches while the middle one is a tea kettle and the last one reveals the sequence. Is he gonna understand this? And then, no! no! This is gonna be interesting. No, 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 no. Wait, what if I'm ruining it? I'm usually wrong. He's gonna see which ones are the right ones, right? You need to tell me which... Oh! After I realize you can just kick the kettle to show what button to press, we start the puzzle as I wait for Wild and Emerald to send me the kettle. It lands on the far back side, so I press that button, which ends up right, then I kick the kettle back. Each time they kick the kettle over, I press the corresponding button for more progress again and again until we complete the puzzle. Pressing the next 3 buttons reveals the following floor and shows that we're pretty close to the red entity. For this puzzle, we already see the sequence and need to slot in some pegs, but the boards are completely blank. So I show the others, then lay them all on the ground as Emerald opens the door. Checking his room, there's a telescope we can look into that reveals the shapes on the boards. I then check Wild's room to realize that it's just to relay the telescope info. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay. So watch. So someone, no, look at me. Look at me. We're gonna see, okay. So this, stop it! Get back here right now! Okay, so we have these, right? So we have these. No. We have the, oh, stop! Okay, we have these. So stop it! Once I fail to show the different parts of the process, I claim the telescope room for myself and start the puzzle anyway. I see that Emerald's holding up a triangle, but that's not part of the sequence, so I shake my head at Wild. He understands and relays the info to Emerald, who now raises the line. So I shake at Wild again, then Emerald raises an E, so I shake once more. Eventually, Emerald raises the asterisk, so this time I nod to Wild as Emerald slots it in. So now we just go through the other tiles the same way, with me shaking and nodding to Wild as needed until the sequence is complete and we win the puzzle. One triple button press later and we're directly beneath the red bell as Wild kicks a board at it. Heading to the next puzzle, the left room has signal diamonds and shapes, the middle room can see both rooms, and the right room has the shapes with buttons. Now Emerald motions for me to follow him as we meet up in the first room where the shapes are. For the U, I raise my arms as Emerald agrees, then for the left bar, I eventually straighten my arm left as Emerald does the same. Then we do motions for left arm raised, crouching neutral, and standing neutral. Finally, for the spiral, the others decide we should spin, so we each enter our own rooms and start the puzzle. Now I wait for Wild, who eventually approaches me to raise his arms. So I head to my shapes and approach the U bars button to press it for some progress. Next, Wild approaches me with left arm across, so I press the across bars button, which ends up right. Now Wild comes with a plain neutral pose, so I press the upper arch button, which gives us more progress. Next is crouching neutral, so I press the lower arch button, then Wild does left arm across, so I press the left bar, which wins us the puzzle. Pressing the final 3 buttons, the wall opens up to expose the dark red entity. It's surrounded by 3 buttons, so we each slowly approach our own as I look to each of my friends, then press my button. Immediately, the bell begins to shrivel and shrink before squishing together as the red glow dies down. Our colors are restored as we can hear each other again, then Emerald pokes fun at me, overly explaining the puzzles. So we look over the edge and jump down before coming across some kind of screen. Pressing the button turns it on as suddenly relaxing music plays and the credits begin to roll. Once the sequence ends, we follow the path to reach the pier and hear even more music ahead. Waving my arms in excitement, I approach the sign, but it just tells us how to wave goodbye. Getting emotional, we really don't want to leave, but eventually we approach the gate as Wild presses the button, which reveals his 3 colors. Once he passes through the gate, he looks back through the window and waves goodbye at us while we wave back. Eventually he backs away, then walks into the light before he's completely gone. Now Emerald presses the switch as his own colors are displayed and he passes through the gate. No, Emerald! Wavy. The wavy arms is going goodbye. No. I hear the mashing on the keyboard. Muda punch. I wanna miss you. No. Finally, it's my turn to press the button as my own colors are displayed and I pass through the gate. But even though I'm alone, I wave at the glass saying goodbye to this beautiful world. Eventually, I approach the light and pass through as House thanks me for playing their game. But there's still more to do as we load back into spawn and notice that the black ball opened up, revealing a new keyhole. Now we head to the map room to plan our next move, where we notice several new purple pairs. Then we explore around to find a new puzzle that has several pegs with shapes. Pressing the switch turns on some kind of lift that moves between the 2 platforms, so I ride the lift to the other side where the sequence is revealed. Now I walkie-talkie tell my friends that I need the triple ball stack along with the swirly swirl, then Emerald rides over with the first board so I can slot it in. After Wild rides over with the swirly swirl, I slot that in next, then my friends bring each of the other pegs as we insert all of them, winning the puzzle. Nearby is another puzzle with some kind of container next to a very deep pit. Wild immediately jumps down while I walk down all the stairs, noticing the several different floors along with the item blocking gates along the way. Once we regroup at the bottom, Wild picks up the pear container, which closes the door but unlocks the gate. So I realize we need to pass it upwards as Emerald makes his way higher, then I try to punt it to Wild. But I sadly miss as it falls below, then Wild jumps down to get it, but he gets stuck while jumping back. So he ends up launching it as Emerald almost grabs it, but sadly it rolls over to the red platform. Now I pass through the gate and head upstairs to drop down to the case, but Emerald seemingly already moved it. Emerald points out I walked right past it, so I drop down to the bottom, then make my way back up as Emerald punts it all the way up to me. Now with the case, I am up at Wild, then charge a strong kick to launch it up as Wild manages to catch it. After Emerald grabs the next pass, I head to the very top, then drop down a couple levels for Wild to kick the case up to me, then I launch it up and out of the pit. So we all head up to the top where Emerald grabs the case and slots it in, rewarding us with the pair. Now exploring up the hill, we find a brown pit as Emerald drops inside to discover a green flare. Now we approach the puzzle, which has a switch and a telescope pointing to another telescope platform. So Wild stays behind while Emerald and I leave for that platform. Oh my gosh, it's a hole! What the heck? After Emerald falls down after me and manages to slide all the way down, we manage to regroup as Emerald glitches himself through a train, then we eventually reach the telescope. But it just leads to another telescope, so I update Wild on our situation, then Emerald starts his journey to the last one. Once Emerald shoots up his flare, I listen for the explosion, then press the button, winning us the puzzle. After catching up to Emerald on a train, we ride it back to spawn, then enter the green chamber to slot in our 2 pairs. Afterwards, we revisit the map room to plan our next move, then start our journey back to Wild. On the way, I suddenly notice a laser flash, but Emerald didn't see it, so I assumed that I maybe imagined it. Sure enough, when we reach the telescope, Wild's not here. So I try walkie-talkieing Wild, but he doesn't respond, though suddenly we see a yellow flare. Now we head in that direction to find the ski lift and notice Wild ahead. Apparently he was trying to be sneaky, but we accidentally foiled his plans as he shows where he placed the items while also confirming that he did shine the laser. We have a plan. We looked at the map and we saw that there is a, oh my goodness. No, stop! I'm stuck! The pair got grabbed! Oh my gosh! Oh, flare pistol's going poof! Flare pistol's rolling away! Oh no! It's going far away! Look at him freak out trying to... Nappa, he found it! Double flare pistol squad, Nappa. We continue to the next puzzle and we find one with a teal platform along with a chair and buttons, so I take a seat and can suddenly hear music. Emerald figures out that the button sounds like it's opening a case, and Wild figures out that it's happening near a distant musical area. But we're not sure which one, so Emerald and I look around for the nearest one to snatch ourselves a music radio. Emerald thinks the puzzle music corresponds to channel 6, and when we take it back to Wild, it sounds like that's true. Then Wild points out that it might be the music area with the same color as this one, so Emerald checks the map, then he and I head over to the teal music zone. After searching for a while, we eventually check between some rocks to find the case and pull out the pair. Then we get back together and return to slot in both pairs before eventually finding another puzzle. There's shapes all around and the sequence is already revealed until Emerald opens the door. Inside is a telescope along with several blank pegs, so Emerald deduces that the telescope reveals the shape just like the puzzle in the black ball. Looking through the telescope confirms this, but we're confused on how to get the pegs outside. Though Emerald figures out that we can first identify which shape is on every peg now, like how this one is an S, then we can place them by the shapes outside to help us remember. So I place this one by the thermometer, then we identify the next one as the swirly swirl and place it by the loop. The third one ends up being an E, so we move the swirly a bit forward and place the E closer to the loop. Then we identify and place all the other blocks based off how closely they match their structures. Once they're all set, we press the switch to reveal the sequence, then we use our statue hints to pick the right pegs and slot them in one by one, winning us the puzzle. The next puzzle wants us to slot in an asterisk, a butterfly, a neutral pose, and a music block, but we can't find any of them nearby. So we head over to the base of the weather balloon to instead find a case that holds 2 pairs. Immediately Emerald puts a pair inside, then I slot the case on his backpack. Afterwards, we eventually figure out that we'll have to get the needed tiles for this puzzle from the other puzzles, so we make note of the sequence. Starting a new day, we put our gear back on, Nappa turning the holster side away. Nappa, put it on! Before playing with the marker boards again. No! Plan, whatever. Then return to the map room to see which pairs are left, then we head to the green room to turn in our pair. Eventually we find the next puzzle, which has 2 buildings separated by a gap, plus they each show a progress bar. Entering inside, we see that there's tons of different signal sources and the opposite building has the same amount of switches. So we come up with a naming system as Emerald calls the first shape a Ferris wheel. He calls the vertical sequence stairs and the far right one a square, plus we'll count from left to right, top to bottom. Calling the flattest shape a boat, he says we'll count the floor one starting from the door. We'll call the slanted steps diagonal line and the first wave big wave while the second one is small wave. Once Wild agrees to be the middleman, I close the door, then notice the first is lit on the boat. So I tell Wild boat 1, which he relays to Emerald, earning us some progress. Next is on the Ferris wheel, but I'm not sure how to tell him which one, so I say it's the one below the far right. Unfortunately, that ends up wrong, though the next one is the bottom on the first duo, so I tell Wild accordingly. That ends up correct, and the next one is diagonal line 5, so I tell Wild line 5. We thankfully get that right, and the next one is small wave 2, so I tell Wild lower wave 2. That ends up correct as well, and now the light is lower right square, so I tell that to Wild, which ends up right. The last one is parallelogram 2, so I tell Wild it's to the right of the square and before the wave, plus the switch is position 2. Then Wild relays it to Emerald, who goes to press the button, winning us the puzzle. Now we collect the music block, the butterfly block, the neutral pose block, and the invisible asterisk block before slotting them all in to complete the collection puzzle. Not much further is a red building leading to another puzzle with its blocks locked away. So we each press and hold a button as Wild and I are separated from Emerald, but the pair is already freed. Emerald's pointing something out to us as Wild notices a button, so he lifts me up, then I jump to press it. Now the lower panel opens up, revealing the sequence as Emerald's blocks are released. So he shows us the blocks one by one as we shake our heads or nod to direct him until he's able to finish the sequence, winning us the puzzle. Now we ride the train to go all the way back to the green room and slot in all the pairs. Finally, we head back near Green Tower for Emerald to grab the coordinate tracker before we travel all the way over to our first purple pair puzzle. It looks like the heavy ball puzzle, but there's no ball nearby, so we wonder if we'll have to bring it all the way here from the other puzzle. So we agree to set this puzzle aside, then find the next purple puzzle, which has music blocks. It's exactly like the other music puzzle we did, but this one has no communicator, so I'll have to explain the music through soundproof glass. After Emerald lays all 9 blocks down, we assign numbers to 9 different gestures. Left arm forward, up, and left is 1, 2, 3, while right arm forward, up, and right is 4, 5, 6. Both arms forward, up, and sideways is 7, 8, 9, so now we spread out the blocks, then I practice listening to each one and remembering their corresponding numbers. Once we've practiced enough, Wild and I enter the room, then Emerald shuts the door. The first song is Electronic Glitchy, which corresponds to number 8, so we raise both arms as Emerald grabs the block and slots it in. The second song is A Gradual Calm Rise, which we assign to number 6, so we extend our right arm outwards. The third song is like the second, but with some loops, which corresponds to number 2, so we raise our left arm. The fourth song is the Deep Dark Dubstep, which we assign to number 9, so we extend both of our arms sideways. The last one is a constant singular note hum, which corresponds to number 3, so we extend our left arm sideways. Once Emerald slots in the block, we push the button, which wins us the puzzle along with our very first purple pair. So we leave and explore to find another puzzle with a tomato dispenser at the start. So I grab the tomato and kick it over, then we stack to boost me over the roof, after which I open the door for Emerald. Now we stack to climb the layers, but I keep accidentally grabbing Emerald's backpack, though we eventually manage to make it over. Needing to press the switches, I boost Wild to press ours while Emerald presses his, but we're too slow to follow Emerald through the door. Thankfully, Wild and I are able to reopen the door ourselves, but we're too slow to get the tomato across in time. So Wild suggests we take off all our equipment first, and they boost me over to hold the door open, but then Wild accidentally launches the tomato into the gap. Oh. Uh-oh. Once we restart, Wild grabs the tomato, then we rush the blue platform as we quickly boost each other up. Now Wild guides me to jump around the red layer as we reach the back wall and push the buttons to quickly make it past the door. Finally, Emerald and I drop down then run up the stairs to the end as Wild kicks the tomato to us and I slot it in, winning us the puzzle. Not much farther is the green building puzzle, but instead of having to gesture poses, we'll somehow have to gesture shapes. Wild gets the idea to draw the shapes in the air, so after we differentiate between how a 6 and an S would be drawn, I stay in this room while Emerald heads to the other. Once the door closes, Wild approaches to draw a diagonal line, so I head back to grab the line block and put it in slot 1. Now Wild draws a big swirly swirl, so I grab the spiral block and move it to slot 2. For the third, he draws a small loop, which I think is the E, but when I try gesturing for clarification, he seems confused, so I just go ahead and slot the E. Now Wild gestures low punch, mid punch, high punch, which confuses me at first until I remember that that's the triple ball stack and slot it in. Then Wild draws a big triangle, so I head back to slot in the triangle and push the button, winning us the puzzle. So we head back to the green room to slot in the pairs, then we return to the dance club to find a path in the back. Passing through, we follow the red tunnel until we find a long incline leading down to ultimately reach a coloring station. But this one also has gold, silver, and bronze, so Emerald paints me entirely gold before painting Wild with all 3 colors. Then I paint Emerald with all 3 colors before looking in the mirror and changing all our colors back. Now we head all the way back to the purple pair zone and find the final music station to unlock radio channel 2. Eventually we find another puzzle which is like the complex shapes one, only there's many more of them. So Emerald sets them all on the ground while Wild explains from the sequence side. He describes the first one as an upside down U with the deformation at the side, so Emerald immediately finds it and I slot it in. Next is a large circle with a medium circle inside and a small circle outside of both, so we find that peg and slot it in. We do this for the remaining pegs and slot them all in before we press the button and win the puzzle. Now we explore around to find the next puzzle, which has the many switches like before, only this time we can't communicate with anyone outside. The switch presser can talk via intercom to the signal room, but the signal viewer can only communicate with red light flashes. So we agree on 1 flash for no and 2 flashes for yes, plus the initial amount of flashes will show which of the 16 segments that we're working with. So Emerald leaves to his room, then we close the doors and wait to see Emerald flash 14 times. After checking that was 14 flashes, I realize that it's the Ferris wheel, then confirm that with Emerald. Next, I ask if it's on the circle, which he confirms, so I say to treat it like a clock and to flash for what number hand it is. Now Emerald flashes 11 times, so once I confirm that with him, I press the upper left switch, which ends up right. After doing this several more times and getting them all right, Wild presses the last button, winning us the puzzle. So we head up the hill to find the next puzzle that Wild hates more than any other puzzle. You hate sitting with Snootsy giving you therapy more than you hate the helmet puzzle.
Yes.
Never. There's no way this is gonna be as simple as just sitting there though, right? There's no way. Unless, imagine it's like half hour sitting or something. Like, oh, that's the hard mode. It's actually 30 minutes.
Well, bedtime.
Bedtime. So we all take a seat and talk about Magic the Gathering cards, including the Black Lotus card, which sells for $34,000. Eventually the timer's almost done as we get up to watch it count down to 0, winning us the puzzle. Now we head all the way back to turn in our pairs before returning to the heavy ball puzzle. After struggling to lift the ball, we pass it back and forth to each other all the way along the path until we eventually reach the ski lift. Now when I grab the ball, I interact with the approaching lift to take the ball with me as we ride it all the way to the very end. Then we pass it back and forth to each other again and again, all the way through the purple tunnel and up the hill until we can place it on the puzzle, winning us the final pair. Now we head all the way back to the green room again to slot in the very last pair, rewarding us with a special white key. Then we return to spawn and insert the key for the wall to slide very far back, revealing a staircase down. After we travel all the way down, we discover some kind of stage with seats around a printer that has a message telling us to take a seat. Then the next block says this place is a message and they hope that we received it warmly. The following card says to pass it around while taking a moment to share a memory. So I tell the others that I don't remember showing the picture card the wrong way and that it was actually the wall's fault that the red light was confused.
I remember the waiting room, though I don't know if it's more of a memory or if it's more of a nightmare, but it's a memory.
What's so bad about the waiting room? Emerald remembers the golden helmet puzzles, saying he enjoyed them before I grabbed the next message, which reveals that the devs built this place for us, but we made this experience for each other. They hope that our time here remains a part of our friendship even after we've left. Our big walk is over, but before we move on, we can take as long as we'd like to reflect on the time we've spent here together. So I say I had a lot of fun, then I tell Wild and Emerald that they're really smart and have a great sense of direction. After admitting that I don't have a good sense of direction only because I'm enjoying the scenery, I applaud them for always knowing where to go, even when traveling alone. In the rare situation where I had to go by myself, I was a bit nervous, but it worked out every time, to be fair. It did work out every time. Yes, it did. I see you shaking your head. Nappa shake. I did what I was doing. I also brag that we were probably one of the best groups at these puzzles since we completed almost all of them first try. After I thank them for being amazing teammates and friends, Wild and Emerald have nothing to add, so I pick up the last message which says we have one thing left to do and thanks us for visiting. Suddenly the curtains part behind me, revealing 3 buttons as we each get up to press and hold a button, unlocking some kind of light pair. Once it's released, we're launched into some kind of white void with seemingly nowhere to go. Confused, we start picking each other up, then our vision begins fading to white as we suddenly start to panic. Wild runs back deeper into the void as Emerald and I chase after him, but our vision gradually blurs more and more. Eventually I can't see Wild anymore as even Emerald is hard to see that I'm completely blinded. But we can hear each other a bit longer until the final message appears congratulating us on completing Big Walk. The devs hope we enjoyed our time with their game since we've seen all there is to see, but we're always welcome to return if we want a place to walk and talk together. So we meet up one last time on the beach and plug in the radio to amplify channel 1 while we sit and enjoy the music. Then we start throwing each other into the water before heading back to the music as Wild throws Emerald high up. After we all have fun dancing together, Wild tries chair launching me, then we boost each other on top of the speaker to dance some more. Our Big Walk is an experience we'll cherish forever, and we thank you for watching our journey. Like and subscribe for more stories like this, and God bless you.